How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for willing to do this.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I actually didn't even know that they had announced Embla until you emailed me. And then I was like, oh,
Okay. So I could just jump around then before getting to Fire Emblem.
yeah, absolutely. There's not much to jump around to, fair warning. But
Yeah. So you originally studied acting in Miami.
yes, University of Miami, I got my BFA in theater performance. There was also a musical theater degree, but I just did the straight acting track.
Mhm. And was LA always the end goal for you?
You know what's so funny is I actually remember that I was thinking about moving to Chicago, and then I did the IO intensive summer program, which was something that they used to do in the summers before the pandemic. IO is Improv Olympic. It's one of like the three improv schools, and they had a 5 week training program over the summer. So I took that, and one of my instructors was this guy Todd Edwards, and I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to move to Chicago to do acting here." And he was like, "Go to LA," and I was like, "Oh," he's like, "Don't just skip the Chicago, just go to LA." He's like, "You're gonna want to go there eventually anyway." So I was like, "Okay." So then I went right after I graduated.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it looks like you're involved in a lot of different improv groups.
Yeah, so I've been doing improv since I was a teenager because I was very socially awkward. And improv was like a good way. My parents signed me up when I was 16 because I was very shy. And they're like, this is a good way to get you out of your shell. And then I really like attached to it. So that was something that I think like really set me apart, especially in acting school because I just had more training in that. And then, I continued to study it, continued to do programs. And then when I got out to LA, I auditioned for the Second City Conservatory program. So I did that program and then I finished it in 2019. I did a sketch show with 6 other writers. So that was super fun. We sold out a bunch. So that was great.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I still do a lot of that.
Yeah. Are you in SAG yet?
No, I'm SAG eligible, but I have not. They haven't banged on my door yet. So, but I think it should be soon. I think if I do one more SAG project, I think I'm like a must join.
Well, I know besides comedy, I wasn't able to watch the actual short, but I saw the trailer for The Final Girl Returns.
Yes, I have a very small part in that. That was my first SAG project. My friend Alex Perez, who's a fabulous, wonderful, like spooky girl filmmaker, had me play one of the like a little cameo part, which was really, really sweet. And she was like, "Yeah, I wanted you to be in it because I know it's like a SAG credit." And I was like, "That's the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me."
When did you start getting affinity to pursue voiceover then?
My journey into voiceover is actually very silly and weird, which is that I was working at a video game company and I was in a meeting or like a Zoom call or something. And I shared, it was an open concept kind of thing. So my desk was out with all the other desks, and somebody who sat like on a different team, probably like 12 feet behind me, came over to me and was like, "You don't know who I am. I used to work in voiceover. Have you ever considered voiceover?" And I was like, "No, but now I will." So then after that, I got interested in it. I did a lot of like scratch VO work, which is where you're the placeholder
Right.
voiceover until they record final. Yeah. So I did a lot of that. And that was sort of how I got introduced to people in town. So that was a nice, weird, spontaneous way into it.
It does look like you're an anime fan based off what's
Huge, yes. I'm a fan of everything. I love Miku. I love Steven Universe. I love Utena, who's over here. She's my favorite. I've been collecting action figures for a long time too. So yeah, it's a problem.
So were you or maybe have you had any anime uh auditions yet?
Oh, for auditions, yes. Man, yeah. I here's my journey as a voice actor is mostly just auditioning a lot. But yeah, I get a mix of everything. I get a lot of like recently I've been getting a lot of like games that I think are based in China, like fighting games and stuff, and then they're doing the English dub for it. So I get a lot of those. I haven't gotten like a mainline anime in a while. The other thing, and I'm sure talking to a lot of voice actors, you know this already, we don't normally know kind of what the project is. Like sometimes it'll say video game, sometimes it'll just say like interactive, which could be a whole bunch of stuff. So you're kind of like guessing. And if they give you artwork, you can kind of figure it out faster. But for the most part, yeah, it's like, I think this is for an anime. I don't know.
And I know it's kind of a varied opinion I've found, but do you personally think that people should have an improv background for getting into voiceover?
Oh, that's so interesting. What's the general take you've gotten on that?
Usually people say it's really good to have that or theater experience.
That's so interesting. I don't think there's any cut and dry rule on anything. I think anything that gets you there, with the exception of more like extreme stuff like intensive method and stuff that's harmful to your health, but like anything that gets you the tool belt so that you can pull things out when you need them. What I think is super valuable about improv, and I think most people can benefit from improv even if you're not an actor, is it gets your brain and like body comfortable with not necessarily knowing what's going to happen. Which I think can kind of free you up to just be more adaptable and more open. So I think in general, improv is like a good thing to experience a little bit because it brings something out of everybody. But I don't think it's required necessarily if you want to pursue voiceover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, besides Embla, have you gotten very many character parts in voiceover yet?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten a lot of auditions. For the most part, everything that I get is like theatrical or narrative. So mostly video games. The niche that I kind of fulfill is like I can do a little bit of young boy stuff. So I get that sometimes. I've been getting a lot of young girl recently, or like girl who's 1,000 years old, but in the body of a 12-year-old. I've been getting a lot of those lately. But yeah, mostly character stuff. I say also that I get a lot of the like Louisa type, like tough big lady. And those are fun, but they're a little hard because getting in my lower register, the spaces you can play in, it's a little more limiting.
Yeah.
But they're typically not doing a huge range of emotion, so it's pretty fun.
Well, talking on boy voices, that is not another thing that I found that voice actresses that also do them, that they kind of have a different process for how they do them, or some don't at all, or what do you do?
Oh man, what do I do? I'm more like up here. Like, you know, it's a little bit like the same, I think, that other people play. And it's like, it's a little scratchy. It's always very like up and plucky. But you can't, at least for me, I can't sustain it for very long. So I need to take like a lot of breaks. And if there's like a huge range of emotion, I need to definitely like warm up my voice to kind of like hit all that stuff.
Oh, what is the case so far where you've had to alter your voice the most significantly?
Let me think. I will say when I auditioned for Embla, I was a little bit sick.
Oh.
So I remember that I had a bunch of auditions that I needed to get through, and I had no idea what Embla was. It was under a code name. It had like different art. It had all these things, but I was like a little bit scratchy, and I was just like, I was like, ooh, that sounds nice actually. But then I remember listening to it and going like, if I do get that, I'll have to like be sick again. Not actually, but that was probably one of the ones that I definitely. Her lines luckily are shorter, but if it was longer, I think they would have to do like a Franken cut on it because it's a very kind of restrained breathiness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little tricky.
So was that just a pretty general audition when it came through?
Yeah. It came through, it was packaged with another character, and they used like stock art from like, I don't even know what it was from, but it was not the same kind of art style or anything like that. They changed Asker's name, so I didn't know anything about it. And it was just like generally like 4 lines. You know, the quote line from the Twitter announcement was in there, but it changed it to like God of Gateways. So it was just kind of like, oh, okay, fighting game, you know, like, okay, warrior lady, like, yeah, we'll check it out.
And
And then it was a spooky bat lady. And I'm like, ooh, she's spooky. I like this.
And this is obvious, I'm sure, but were you familiar with the franchise?
Yes, when I was supposed to record in person, and then unfortunately I got COVID, but they let me record remote, which was very nice. And so I got on the call and they're like, "Oh, okay, so like here's our audio engineer and here's the director and here's the Nintendo representatives." And I was like, "I'm sorry. Why are Nintendo representatives?" Like, "Oh, this is for Fire Emblem." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And like I think I went like, "Oh," and the audio engineer was like, "She knows what game that is." So yeah, huge fan of the series. I played Awakening in college. I played Birthright. I knew Marth and Roy from Melee. So I've always been about that brand. I haven't beaten Three Houses. I don't know why. But I want to. And like I know Allegra and I know she's in it and stuff. And I was like, but I haven't beaten it yet. So I'm not up on all the stuff.
Well, I'm having interviewed her as well. Was it a Caitlin Galt directing you?
I think so. Man, I would have to go back through the emails. I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They were so nice. It was so fun. It was like a very relaxed energy. Like I think obviously like that team I think has been working together for a while, so they have a good rapport with each other. So I slotted in and it was really fun. They let me play around. So yeah, it was a very nice recording experience.
Well, even with how dark she is, which aspects of Embla could you relate to at all?
Oh boy, the genocide makes it difficult. I definitely get the rejection and like when you take out the elements aside from the like war crimes and stuff, that she's someone who's very lonely, and very like struggling to connect and empathize with people. I think everybody goes through a little bit of that. I think I had my like, I wasn't like emo, but I was definitely I was like a very edgy teen where I was like, no one understands me, So I definitely get where she's coming from with that, but hard to justify some of the other insane stuff going on with her.
Yeah.
But I hope she gets redeemed. I don't know a lot about what the arc for her is. I can intuit from some of the other stuff I recorded, but overall, I'm excited to see where they go with her if they choose to continue to develop her as a character.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to touch on based because it does seem like she's really isolated, but she wouldn't really want to admit that.
Yeah, the lore of that she's like closed off and like out in the void is very sad. Like the lines, because you have to keep like the arc going, so you can't reveal all of the emotionality at the top. You have to like discover that as you get to know a character. But yeah, like her starting point is just very dark and sad. And so, tapping into that for her was, I'm able to kind of separate it. I'm not somebody who's like, I have to pull from my own experiences, but yeah, you're like just what she's dealing with and the insurmountable level of rejection she's received is as an actor, something that I can definitely relate to, because it's like you have to get used to the idea that like you're putting yourself out there and not everybody's going to be interested in it. So yeah, poor kid, but also the war crimes. So it's tough.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on at least what you've gotten so far on her relationships with other characters?
Oh man, the Elm line, it was like he would never betray me. I'm like, does that mean he's gonna betray her? I don't know. I assume yes, but I actually legitimately have no idea. The Asker dynamic, and I've been very curiously like reading the fan like predictions because I literally have no idea. But it is interesting of like, oh, were they in a relationship? No clue. Maybe I have no idea. Like, are they? Was there a point in the past where Embla was different and they were able to relate to each other? And is that something that is sort of impossible at this point? And like, how can they intersect? Because I know like his character descriptions, like he's trying to get through to her, and I don't know if he's going to be able to. I'm not sure. I'm kind of in the dark, the same as everybody else, which is kind of fun because it's interesting to see what other people think about it.
Yeah. Well, it is, of course, interesting that they were both her and Asker were the two humans that were created on Earth in the whole.
Yeah, and like the Norse mythology background of it. Yeah, very Adam and Eve vibes. classic woman fallen into darkness, man doing fine. But he's I know they're like, oh, he's a DILF and he's got the big titties or whatever. Like I was just like, he doesn't seem like that bad a guy, but there's also this like, will they do a turn of like, is he using kindness as a way to like placate people? Because like there is a war going on still. So people's motivations of how they motivate their armies and stuff is always very interesting. But like, yeah, they both seem like such fascinating characters. So I'm excited to see where they take all the stuff, and that they're pulling from Norse mythology. I didn't even realize that those are characters in older texts and stuff. So that's really neat.
Yeah. I guess is Embla the like darkest headspace you've had to go for voiceover?
Ooh, great question. I did have an audition that was very like body horror, like descriptions of like mutilation and stuff. So that was probably like anything where I have to physically go through like the stages of verbalizing a brutal death. That's usually like the darkest it goes for me. For her, it was much more like in the pocket of sadness and like loss and a disconnection kind of thing. So it wasn't the darkest, but it's definitely up there. And when you think about all the horrible things she did in the result of that, you got like, oh, it's hard to balance that of like, do I make this person sympathetic? Because there is something to sympathize with in most characters. And like, if you're playing them, you want to find that stuff. But also, justifiably, not everybody's gonna agree with that because other people deal with loss and rejection and they don't commit all the war crimes. Yeah.
Were you also already playing Heroes before?
So I played it. I was broke as a joke when that game came out. So I started it a little bit and then I realized that it would not be a sound financial decision for me to continue to play the game. But I think it's so cool. And like every once in a while, the different skins or like thematics will come across my feed and the art is so cool. So I think now I kind of want to get back into it, but I'm worried about my wallet and my free time. So we'll see. But it's been, I went through a little bit of the book stuff just very lightly to kind of see where they started to where they are now. And it is a dense text. I'm very impressed because not all mobile games, I think, give that the weight it deserves of like a whole other story that's happening.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's any other franchise that's doing this like Japanese or anime wise, where it's like a 30-year-old property with like hundreds of characters being added all the time.
The creativity and the like, yeah, that they keep pulling from like all these different cool, mythologies. And yeah, I don't know how they do it. I'm not sure. They're the hardest working people out there figuring out all these things. And I love that, what was this like small kind of Japanese only property that people were like, oh, the West wouldn't be interested. Like, it's just something that people aren't going to be into. And then Awakening happened and it really opened up this fan base. And it was like, yeah, we really like this too. It was really cool. So seeing it brought in that much more and that so many people love it is so cool. It makes me very happy.
Mm-hmm. Are you friends with anybody else who's in the cast voice wise?
Oh man. I don't think so. It's a huge cast also. I know, oh man, I only know a handful of voice actors. I'm still kind of newer in the community. So like I've known Allegra for a while. I know Ashley Birch, but I don't think she's in Fire Emblem. But yeah, I'm still getting to know everybody. If Dustin followed me back on Twitter, so even if Asker and Embla are fighting, Dustin and I are cool, I think.
Yeah. I'm supposed to do him like on Tuesday, and
oh yeah, he seems so cool. I was like scrolling through all his stuff when and they let me act off of his lines when I was doing my stuff because they recorded him first, and it was just like that perfect amount of like, I could see why she doesn't like this guy. He's so nice. He's so charming.
Yeah. So is there anything else that's upcoming that you're part of that you can safely talk about?
There might be something being announced on Monday. but I can't say what it is because I don't know if it's actually going to be announced on Monday, but if it is, I'll be like, hey, plug this. But fingers crossed because I've been waiting for that one to be out for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did think I was going to mention this earlier, but I did think it was cool that one of your favorite anime is Utena, because
yes,
my main hobby outside of doing interviews is collecting animation cells.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And I have I just got it in the other day. It's in the closet. I could have gotten it out if I knew this.
Oh, it's okay.
It's from episode 38, right when Auntie betrays at the very end.
A spoiler alert for like a 30-year-old anime property, but yes. Oh my god, it's so I could oh my god, look at that. I love it. I love Utena so much. It's like the drama. Obsessed.
Yeah, because it was just so ahead of its time, and there's nothing like it.
Yeah, I love that like Sailor Moon sort of like launched these very interesting creative careers for a lot of people who were involved in it, but like because Sailor Moon was such a big property, and I also love Sailor Moon, it like fell into that trap, which is like, hey, we're like a very recognizable IP and we have to kind of like follow these guidelines. But what was cool about it was it like branched people off into these more subversive spaces with magical girl stuff like Utena and Princess Tutu and Madoka, and like, yeah, I love that it created like the blueprint for people to then extrapolate off of all of these other things they thought about what being a magical girl is. Yeah.
So is there anything that you want to say to the Fire Emblem community?
Oh my god, you guys are so nice, and you've been so welcoming and sweet, and I didn't even know that the soundbite was out or anything like that. So then I was scrolling through Twitter and like looking at the reactions people had to Embla. It was so sweet, and I've gotten some very nice welcome to the tags and stuff. So thank you guys. I feel it's the warmest welcome I could have received. So I really appreciate it.
And I know, of course, your career is still blossoming, but my final question with people is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, my legacy. Oh, wow. Oh no, I wasn't expecting this on a Friday. My legacy, oh man, that like people that look like me can voice really cool characters, and that that voice acting is a space that is very freeing and that can allow you to, like, you know, as an actor in the theatrical, there's certain characters that I can play, and then there's certain characters that I can't play for a myriad of different reasons. And that voiceover is like a cool place that can kind of break that down and allow people from all sorts of backgrounds to voice incredible characters from all over the multiverse is very cool. So I hope that can be my legacy, that other, you know, voice actors of color and femme presenting voice actors, that they can feel liberated and feel like they can do it too.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Oh my God. Thank you for having, this was, first of all, your reach out was so sweet and very polite. And you gave me all your stats. I was like, this is the nicest, most professional email I've gotten about a little interview like this. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll be sure to send it to you once I have it up.
Oh, cannot wait. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Have a good rest of your Friday.
You too. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.